Before we get into this, let me just say something real quick. If you grew up in a black household, you already know that Grandma's kitchen was the most sacred room in the entire house. You did not walk in there asking questions. You stood back, you watched, you learned, and if you were lucky, she let you stir something. Because black grandmas have been quietly running the most efficient, most flavorful, most resourceful kitchens on the planet for generations. And today we are counting down all 31 of their most clever cooking tricks that honestly will change the way you cook forever. These are not random tips from some food blog. These are passed down, tested, trusted, and proven methods straight from the women who could feed 40 people with a $20 budget and make it taste like a five-star restaurant. So whether you call her Big Mama, Grandma, Nana Granny, or just the OG of the house, this one is for her. Let us get into it. Number 31, washing your chicken with lemon and vinegar. Before a single piece of chicken hits that cast iron skillet or baking dish, Big Mama is standing at the sink with a bowl of cold water, white vinegar, and lemon juice. She submerges every single piece, lets it soak for a few minutes, then rinses it thoroughly. This is not just a ritual, it actually works to remove surface bacteria and any residual smell that comes with raw poultry. The acid from both the lemon and vinegar breaks down surface proteins and neutralizes odors. This has been standard practice in black households long before food safety became a mainstream conversation. Number 30, seasoning your cast iron skillet with Crisco. Every black grandmother worth her salt has a cast iron skillet that has been in the family for 40 years and it is seasoned to absolute perfection. When that skillet needs maintenance, she reaches for Crisco shortening, not olive oil, not cooking spray. She applies a thin layer all over the skillet, inside and out, then places it upside down in the oven at around 350 degrees for an hour. The shortening polymerizes into the iron surface and creates a naturally non-stick coating that no modern pan can compete with. This is why her fried chicken slides right out without a single piece of breading left behind. Number 29, adding sugar to cornbread batter only when necessary. This is a cultural debate that has divided black families for generations, but the real OGs know exactly when to add sugar and when to leave it out. If the cornbread is going alongside a savory smothered pork chop or a pot of greens, the sugar stays out because it will compete with the savory flavors. But if the cornbread is being served with a sweet potato dish or at a Sunday dessert spread, a little sugar enhances the overall experience. The technique is about intention and balance, understanding that the cornbread is part of a larger meal, not just an isolated bread. Number 28. Soaking dried beans overnight with a pinch of baking soda. Before cooking a big pot of red beans, pinto beans, or navy beans, black grandmas soak them overnight in cold water with a small pinch of baking soda. The baking soda raises the pH of the water, which softens the outer skin of the bean significantly faster and breaks down the complex sugars that cause digestive discomfort. This means your beans cook quicker, absorb seasoning more effectively, and are far less likely to leave everyone feeling bloated after dinner. A small pinch, not too much, because too much baking soda can affect flavor and make the beans mushy. Number 27. Using the pot liquor from greens as a base for everything else. The liquid left in the bottom of the pot after your collard greens or mustard greens finish cooking is called pot liquor, and throwing it away in a black grandmother's kitchen is practically a crime. That liquid is packed with vitamins, minerals, and layers of smoky flavor from the ham hocks or smoked turkey necks that were cooked alongside the greens. She saves that pot liquor and uses it as a base for cornbread dipping, as a broth for soups, or as the liquid for braising other meats. Nothing gets wasted and everything gets more flavorful. Number 26. Pressing oxtails with heavy cans before browning. When preparing oxtails for a slow braise, Grandma places her seasoned oxtails on a hot skillet and then sets a heavy can or a smaller pot on top of them while they sear. This is called press browning, and it maximizes the surface contact between the meat and the pan. More surface contact means a deeper, more even crust forms on the outside of the oxtail. That crust is where all the rich caramelized flavor comes from, and it ensures the final braised oxtail has that deep brown color and intense flavor that makes people line up for seconds. Number 25. slipping bay leaves into everything slow cooked. Black grandmothers understand the power of dried bay leaves in a way that modern cooks completely overlook. Whenever something is going in a slow cooker, a large braising pot, or a Dutch oven for hours, 2 or 3 dried bay leaves go in automatically. Bay leaves contain compounds called terpenes, and when these compounds are exposed to low sustained heat over a long period, they release a subtle earthiness and depth that you cannot achieve with any other single spice. You will never actually taste the bay leaf, but take it out and you will immediately notice that something is missing. Number 24. Soaking liver in milk before cooking. Chicken livers and beef liver are staples in traditional black cooking, and they can be extremely strong in flavor if not handled correctly. Big Mama always soaks her liver in whole milk for at least an hour before cooking it. The milk draws out the blood and the metallic bitter compounds that make liver taste gamey. After soaking, you rinse it off, season it, and cook it. The result is a much milder, tender, and more palatable liver that even people who thought they hated liver will actually enjoy. Number 23. Putting mayonnaise on the outside of grilled cheese or cornbread. This sounds absolutely wild until you try it. Big Mama spreads a thin layer of Duke's mayo or Blue Plate mayo on the outside of her grilled cheese sandwiches instead of butter. Mayo has a higher smoke point than butter, which means it does not burn as quickly and gives you a more even, deeply golden, beautifully crispy exterior. The same logic applies when she grease spreads a little mayo on top of her cornbread before baking. It adds richness and color without making it taste like mayonnaise at all. Number 22. Rubbing meat with mustard before applying dry rub. Before a rack of ribs or a pork shoulder gets its dry rub, a thin layer of yellow mustard goes on first. This shocks many people who hear it for the first time, but the logic is airtight. The mustard acts as an adhesive that holds every single layer of the spice rub in place. It also contains vinegar, which tenderizes the outer surface of the meat slightly. And here is the best part. Once the meat hits the heat, the mustard flavor completely cooks off. What you are left with is a perfectly seasoned, perfectly crusted piece of meat with absolutely no mustard taste whatsoever. Number 21. Adding evaporated milk instead of regular milk to mac and cheese. In a black grandmother's baked mac and cheese, you will almost never find regular milk used for the egg and milk mixture poured over the pasta. It is always evaporated milk. Evaporated milk has had about 60% of its water content removed, which means it is far richer, creamier, and more concentrated than regular milk. When it bakes with the cheese and egg, it creates a custardy, thick, impossibly creamy filling that holds together when you cut it. Regular milk produces a watery, separated result that no self-respecting black grandmother would ever serve to her family. Number 20. Use Kool-Aid to dye your coconut cake frosting or punch. This is unapologetically and specifically a black grandma move. That red punch at every cookout, birthday party, and family reunion starts with the red Kool-Aid packet, and grandma knows exactly how much sugar goes in per gallon from memory. She also uses Kool-Aid to tint coconut for coconut cake decorating, getting that pink or red shredded coconut that sits on top of a beautifully frosted layer cake. The artificial dyes in Kool-Aid are safe for food use, and they provide a vibrancy that food coloring gel can actually struggle to match for certain colors. It is practical, it is affordable, and it tastes exactly like childhood. Number 19. Making a roux low and slow for gravy. When Big Mama starts her brown gravy for smothered chicken, pork chops, or turkey necks, she starts her roux on the lowest heat imaginable. And she stands there stirring constantly for much longer than you would expect. A proper dark roux takes patience and it cannot be rushed. If the heat is too high, the flour burns and the gravy tastes bitter. Low and slow allows the flour to toast evenly and develop a rich, nutty, almost chocolate-colored base that gives black gravy that distinctive deep brown color and complex layered flavor that no store-bought packet can come close to reproducing. Number 18. Using smoked turkey instead of pork for a lighter version. This is a generational shift that happened in many black families as health awareness increased. Instead of using ham hocks or salt pork to season greens, beans, and stews, grandma started using smoked turkey necks or smoked turkey wings. The smoke from the turkey delivers virtually the same depth of flavor because it is still a smoked meat product, but it comes with significantly less fat and sodium. The trick is letting the smoked turkey simmer in the pot for at least 45 minutes before adding anything else, so the fat and flavor from the turkey have time to fully infuse into the cooking liquid. Number 17. Parboiling ribs before grilling or baking. Before her ribs ever see the grill or the oven, Grandma parboils them in heavily seasoned water for 30 to 45 minutes. This pre-cooking step renders out a significant portion of the fat, tenderizes the connective tissue in the meat, and seasons the ribs from the inside. When they hit the grill afterward, they need far less time to finish cooking and the meat practically falls off the bone. She always adds onion, garlic, vinegar, and her favorite spice blend to that boiling water because everything in the water is going into the ribs. Number 16. Keeping a small cup of pasta water before draining. When Spaghetti Wednesday happens in a black household, Grandma never fully drains that pasta over the sink and throws all the water away. She keeps a cup or two of that starchy pasta water and adds it directly into her meat sauce. The starch in the pasta water acts as a natural thickener and emulsifier, binding the sauce to the pasta far more effectively than without it. The pasta water also helps thin out a sauce that gets too thick without diluting the flavor the way regular water would. It is a secret that Italian restaurants have used for centuries, and Black grandmothers figured it out independently. Number 15. Brining chicken in salt water and vinegar overnight. The night before frying chicken is supposed to happen, the chicken pieces go into a large bowl or pot with cold water, a generous amount of kosher salt, and apple cider vinegar. This brine does multiple things at once. The salt pulls moisture into the meat through osmosis, which keeps the chicken from drying out during frying. The vinegar tenderizes the muscle fibers throughout. When that brine chicken hits the seasoned flour and then the hot oil, the result is chicken that is crispy on the outside, incredibly juicy on the inside, and seasoned all the way through to the bone. Number 14. Using a wooden spoon handle to test oil temperature. Black grandmothers did not have candy thermometers, and they did not need them. When the frying oil is heating up, Grandma dips the handle of a wooden spoon into the oil and watches what happens. If small bubbles immediately form around the wooden handle and rise steadily, the oil is ready for frying. If there are no bubbles, the oil is too cold. If the bubbles are violent and aggressive, the oil is too hot. This technique works because moisture in the wood creates a steam reaction that makes the oil bubble at the right temperature range for most deep frying, which is around 350 to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Number 13. Adding a splash of apple cider vinegar to collard greens. Right before the collard greens finish cooking, Grandma adds a small splash of apple cider vinegar directly into the pot. This does several things simultaneously. The acid brightens the flavor of the greens, which can taste flat and one-dimensional after hours of slow cooking. It also acts as a natural preservative that extends the life of leftover greens in the refrigerator. And it cuts through the natural bitterness that collard greens carry, balancing the richness of the smoked meat and the salt and creating a perfectly rounded, complex final flavor in the pot. Number 12. Folding hot sauce directly into scrambled eggs before cooking. This is a black breakfast table staple that elevates scrambled eggs from basic to extraordinary. Before the beaten eggs ever hit the pan, a few dashes of hot sauce go directly into the egg mixture. The acidity in the hot sauce actually helps the eggs stay lighter and fluffier during cooking because it slightly disrupts the protein chains in the eggs, preventing them from binding too tightly. The heat from the hot sauce also becomes more subtle and integrated once the eggs are cooked, giving you a gentle warmth throughout rather than a sharp concentrated hit. Number 11. Using a potato to fix an oversalted dish. When a pot of soup, stew, or greens gets too salty, which happens to everyone, Grandma drops 2 or 3 large chunks of raw potato directly into the pot and lets them simmer in the dish for 20 to 30 minutes. The starchy potato absorbs excess sodium from the surrounding liquid as it cooks. Once the potatoes have done their job, she removes them before serving. This genuinely works because starch molecules in the potato have a strong affinity for sodium ions and draw them out of the liquid through absorption. It will not fix an extremely oversalted dish completely, but it reliably reduces the saltiness to an enjoyable level. Number 10. Double dredging for extra crispy fried chicken. Nana's fried chicken has a thick, shatteringly crispy coating that stays intact even after cooling, and the secret is double dredging. After the chicken comes out of its brine, it goes into seasoned flour, then into seasoned buttermilk, and then back into the flour again before it hits the oil. That second layer of flour creates a thicker, more textured coating with more surface area that crisps up dramatically in the hot oil. The buttermilk layer in the middle steams slightly during frying, which keeps the inner coating moist and attached to the chicken skin while the outer layer crisps to perfection. Number 9. Letting meat come to room temperature before cooking. Before any significant piece of meat goes into a pan or oven, it sits out on the counter for at least 20 to 30 minutes. This is not laziness or forgetting about it. Cooking cold meat straight from the refrigerator means the outside of the meat is done long before the center reaches a safe, desirable temperature. When the meat has had time to come up to room temperature, the entire piece cooks more evenly and consistently from the outside to the center, which prevents the dry, overcooked exterior and undercooked interior problem that plagues home cooks who skip this step. Number 8. Deglazing the pan after browning meat. After browning pork chops, chicken, or beef for a smothered dish, there is a layer of browned bits stuck to the bottom of that cast iron skillet, and those bits are pure, concentrated flavor. Grandma immediately pours a splash of water, chicken broth, or even sweet tea into that hot skillet and scrapes the bottom with a wooden spoon. This is called deglazing, and it lifts every single one of those caramelized bits off the pan and incorporates them directly into the gravy or sauce that is being made in the same skillet. The gravy built on that deglazed base has a depth and richness that cannot be replicated any other way. Number 7. Saving the neck bones for incredible flavor. While everyone else throws away the neck bones or feeds them to the dog, Black grandmothers are making some of the most flavorful dishes in the entire meal with them. Neck bones are simmered low and slow with onions, garlic, and seasoning for hours until the minimal amount of meat on them becomes fall-off-the-bone tender, and the collagen from the bones melts into the cooking liquid. That liquid becomes an incredibly rich, naturally thick broth that forms the base of beans, rice, soups, and gravies. This is a resourcefulness born from generations of making the most out of every part of the animal. Number 6. Adding a little sugar to balance tomato-based dishes. Whenever Grandma is making spaghetti sauce, stewed tomatoes, or any dish where canned or fresh tomatoes play a major role, a small pinch of sugar goes in during the cooking process. Tomatoes are naturally acidic, and prolonged cooking can intensify that acidity and make the entire dish taste sharp and harsh. A small amount of sugar, we are talking a half teaspoon to a teaspoon, counteracts that acidity without making the dish taste sweet. It simply brings the pH back into balance and allows the natural sweetness of the tomatoes themselves to come through in the finished dish. Number 5. Whipping butter into mashed potatoes instead of mixing. The difference between adequate mashed potatoes and Grandma's soul-shaking mashed potatoes comes down entirely to this one technique. Rather than stirring cold butter into the hot potatoes, Grandma cuts her butter into small cubes and lets them come to room temperature. She then whips them into the potatoes using vigorous stirring or an electric hand mixer on a low speed. The softened butter incorporates as an emulsion rather than a melted pool, which means it coats every starch particle in the mashed potato evenly and creates that silky, rich, impossibly smooth texture that makes you want to eat them by the spoonful. Number 4. Cooking low and slow always wins over high heat. This is the foundational philosophy of Black grandma cooking, and it applies to virtually everything. Oxtails cook for 4 to 6 hours, collard greens simmer for 2 to 3 hours, beans go all day. Even baked mac and cheese goes in at a moderate temperature and bakes slowly to allow the custard to set properly. High heat and rushing are the enemies of this style of cooking. Low and slow allows collagen to break down into gelatin, flavors to develop and meld together, and tough cuts of meat to become luxuriously tender. Time is an ingredient, and Black grandmothers have always understood this better than anyone. Number 3. Using buttermilk in everything from pancakes to pound cake. Buttermilk is a cornerstone ingredient in Black Southern cooking, and the reason is purely scientific. Buttermilk is acidic, and when it meets the baking soda or baking powder in a batter, it creates a chemical reaction that produces carbon dioxide bubbles. Those bubbles are what makes pancakes, waffles, and cakes incredibly light and fluffy. Beyond the leavening effect, the acid in buttermilk tenderizes the gluten structure of whatever you are baking, which results in a softer, more tender crumb. Black grandmothers also use buttermilk to marinate chicken and soak fish before frying because the acid tenderizes the protein and helps the coating stick. Number 2. Seasoning with Lawry's garlic powder and onion powder as a holy trinity. If you grew up in a black household, you already know that Lawry's seasoned salt, garlic powder, and onion powder are the non-negotiable foundation of virtually every savory dish that comes out of that kitchen. These three together create a baseline flavor profile that is deeply savory, slightly salty, aromatic, and complex. No dish goes unseasoned, and no dish relies on any single one of these alone. They go on together, they go on early, and they go on generously. This combination has flavored millions of holiday meals, Sunday dinners, and weeknight suppers across black households in America for generations. Number 1. Rendering chicken fat and saving it for cooking. When Big Mama trims fat from chicken thighs or whole chickens, she does not throw those pieces of fat away. She renders them slowly in a pan on low heat until they release all their fat, and what is left are crispy little bits of chicken skin. She pours that rendered chicken fat into a jar and keeps it in the refrigerator. Then she uses that fat to cook her rice, fry her eggs, season her cornbread batter, and add richness to her gravies. This is the black grandma version of schmaltz, and it makes everything it touches taste richer and more complex. If this video gave you something to call your grandmother about, or reminded you of a kitchen you grew up in, share it with someone who needs to see it today.